Hey everyone, John Henry here, and today in the market psychology video, we're going to be taking a look at crude oil on a pullback morning, which actually kind of ended up as a little bit of a range. Now, if you look at yesterday was inventory day, and we got absolutely brutalized to the downside. Inventories came out, went double whip back and forth. We talked a little bit about that on the Trade of the Day video yesterday, as well as a newsletter, and it just got hammered lower afterward. Now, that drop lower ended as a little bit of a weak, albeit, but a downward channel, maybe a wedge, depending on how you drew it. But if we look a little bit closer here, we can see that at the end of the day, there was a nice little rally to finish the day off. Now, more likely than not, that's just the sellers that have been in since the inventory number dropping lower, taking some profit, and that causes a little bounce higher. But there will be buyers in this, and then we open with a gap higher. That tells us that if there were buyers in this, they're very likely going to be taking some profit off of the table. Now, another key level of interest here, we came back to where that news candle kind of left off, right? That's the inventory candle, and we pushed all the way down here. So any sellers who missed that opportunity, we just gapped right into their opportunity area, right? So there are probably going to be a lot of sellers here trying to get in for another move down to these lows overall down there. So when we see that they follow that bear candle up, this first candle of the day, very strong bear candle off of an area of interest like that, they follow up as a weak bull, that's something's wrong there. The buyers aren't showing enough to reverse that amount of selling pressure off of that area, and that is a beautiful reason to sell. And this was actually an add-on in the Trade of the Day video today. Nice little sell underneath that to drop that farther down. Now, that further drop lower, we did see buyers starting to try to defend at least off of those levels of interest, but knowing how strong of a downside move this is, it's very likely going to follow itself up with at least another test of the low, probably a measured move, something along those lines to get the move going lower. But we still have to wait for the buyers to get out of the way. So that strong bull candle tells us, well, we might want to wait a little bit before we go selling into it, especially with that bad follow through from the sellers. The buyers try getting the breakout, and look at that huge wick on the top. There are a lot of buyers that are trapped now, and that's a big red flag for the buyers, but it's a big green flag for the sellers because now we know that the buyers are stuck once again, and that allows us to sell into their stops and drive the market down to finish that measured move off. Now, we finish the measured move off, and we get a nice bounce off of the moving average. And we say this over and over and over again. I don't want to be the first one to the party because very likely it's just going to be a trap. So I want to wait for a little more information. There will be buyers that buy into this, but if it goes lower, they're going to buy more, and they're going to buy more. They're going to be scaling into a larger move. For us, that doesn't work so well, so I'm waiting for a little more information. It pushes back down, heavy bear candle, really bad follow through the lows. Closes outside of the lows, immediately closes right back in. We're seeing potential for the market to make a mistake here and say, whoops, didn't mean to go down there. Guess we're going back up again. And that is a beautiful place to become a buyer, knowing that the downside move is limited now. And we have a lot more upside potential after these earlier buyers have now been trapped out of the move. That's important because now that the buyers are trapped out of the move, that should cause buyers to chase this move higher, especially if it gets some legs, which in this case it did, and cause even further buying pressure towards the upside. The sellers tried coming in, you can see off of that little wick right there at the bottom, and then shoved it right back up, and that turned it into a bull engulfing candle. Another good reason to buy, seeing the sellers get shut down once again to finish that move off to at least around that prior swing area, just to get the move started. The sellers try coming back in, they get a really nice looking bear candle, but they couldn't even trigger in a short underneath it. They couldn't even get it underneath that candle before turning right back around into a strong bull candle. That's another really big red flag for the sellers, and a good green candle, bad pun, sorry, but for the buyers to shove the market right back up, and a beautiful reason to become a buyer once again. Now, after we get that push higher, we start pushing in towards the highs. And this is where things get a little bit tricky because we start seeing some signs of exhaustion right here. The buyers slam higher, no follow through before they start pulling back. So chances are if it gets up to these highs, we might be forming a little bit of a range. Now we have a double top here. We just failed off of the lows. There's a good chance that now we're moving into a range and there are going to be sellers up here. But again, I don't want to be the first one to the party. Need to wait for a little bit. The buyers try getting the follow-up breakthrough to prove that they actually want it, and they obviously don't given how much wick was on the top of that candle. candle before it turned back around into a heavy bear candle. Beautiful reason to sell it right off the range highs to drop it back down to the area of support. So just a phenomenal day of trading when it comes to market psychology in combination with technical analysis. You can't really ask for a much better day than this. Very well behaved. So hopefully you found it useful. Hopefully you found it interesting, and we'll see you next time.